0, 20, 31, 26, 40 and 14. Is there a problem with Karun Nair in the Indian team?
Karun Nair has faced a lot of criticism, especially after the third test match, and it comes with no surprise. With an average of just 21.8, he's one of the, if not the worst batter in this tour so far for the Indian team. But the real question is the criticism warranted or should he be dropped forever from the Indian team? Before we look at his numbers and compare him to his contemporaries, hit the subscribe button.
Firstly, it's important to understand that Karun Nair is one of the outlier cases of Indian cricket. After scoring a triple century, he was dropped and nobody thought that he would be making a comeback into that test squad. Karun's worked extremely hard and had 2 amazing seasons of Ranji Trophy cricket and also domestic cricket and other formats, and he broke down that door to get back into this Indian side. The first glimpses of his amazing form were visible in the 23-24 Ranji Trophy season, where in 10 games he amassed 690 runs at an average of 40. Not only this, he was also Vidarbha's highest scorer and got 200s and 350s. But in the 24-25 Ranji Trophy season, he took it a notch further. In the 9 matches that he played, he scored 863 runs at an average of 53. Not only this, he also scored 400s, 250s, and he ensured that he was one of the highest scorers in the tournament itself. These performances also ensured that he was selected for the India A squad that was travelling to play against the England Lions in England. And here too, he impressed with a double century in the very first match. The added timing of the occasion with both Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma announcing their retirements meant that India definitely had vacancies in their batting order, and Karun seemed like the right person not only because of his performances in the domestic circuit but also because of his recent double century.
What came as a surprise to a lot of people is the fact that Karun Nair was slotted at number 6 in the very first test match against England. A lot of people, including us, expected Karun Nair to start at number 3, but he did get that opportunity from the second test onwards. In the 6 innings that he's played so far, he scored a total of 131 runs with an average of 21.8. What's worrying is the fact that since his 303 not out, he's played 10 innings scoring just 185 runs with an average of 18.5. And this is the problem with Karun Nair, because ever since that big score, he's not even scored a 50. Even though for the most part of his career, he's batted in the lower middle order, but finally when Karun Nair is slotted at number 3, and it almost seems like the Indian team want him in the top 3, he still hasn't made his mark. Across the 2 test matches that he has played at number 3, he scored a total of 111 runs with an average of just 27.7. And these are worrying signs only because a lot of these pitches during the series have been batting friendly. And for a batter on these pitches, especially when he's already in his early 30s, it's really important for him to score big. A lot of people might even argue that the Indian bowlers have done better than the England bowlers. And even if this argument were to be true, the number 3 of the English side, Ollie Pope, has scored 186 runs across 3 test matches with an average of 31. He also has 100 already in the first test match in this series.
Now there's 2 arguments here, right? You can talk about Karun Nair at number 3, and the first situation is the argument where you give him more chances. The simple reason for why Karun should get more chances is because he's only batted 4 innings at number 3. Now for any kind of test batter, irrespective of their experience, it is already tough to be batting in a new position. But for Karun Nair's case, he's batting in one of the toughest positions in test cricket, and that is number 3. And it's not like he's out and out failed. It is more the case that he's been a part of a lot of innings where he's looked good, he's gotten starts. In fact, he's also batted time in most of these innings, but then has found a way to get out. We can't simply discount the fact that Karun Nair has come out, and with an average balls per innings of 47.7, he's at least shown that he can stick out there for 8 overs on his own. And this means that he's batting enough time to play out the Duke's new ball, and this means that he is in some way contributing. If it's not necessarily with runs, he's at least ensuring that he's shielding the middle order, the likes of a Shubman Gill or a Rishabh Pant, from the brand new Duke's ball. While this creates the case for Karun Nair to get more chances at number 3, the flip side can also have its arguments. At the age of 33, Karun Nair by no means is getting any younger, and he's already in his best batting years, in fact at the fag end of them. If an experienced batter like him is able to get in and get the starts, you would expect him to go on and convert these innings, especially because it is not easy getting in England, and after you've done that initial hard work, you would want him to play those long innings. The other factor also is that with age not on his side, you have the likes of a Sai Sudarshan or a Dhruv Jurel who are in their early 20s and can be looked at as long-term solutions, as opposed to Karun Nair, who even if he does well, might not give you more than 2-3 years in test cricket. And the other factor, and something we touched upon earlier, is just the simple batting conditions that have been there in England. Clearly, this is one of the easier eras to bat in England, and this has also been shown as all of our top 6 batters have done well except for Karun Nair. All of them have got 50 plus scores, a lot of them have got centuries and big ones at that. And so that begs the question as to, does Karun Nair actually deserve those chances, or should we move on to the next person?
Now, if you look at Karun Nair's dismissal in this test series so far, a lot of people might say he's been a bit unlucky, but a lot of people will say it's the fact that he's thrown his wicket away after he's settled in. And this is why we look at his innings by innings dismissal and try to find out what's gone wrong with him. In the first test match where he was batting at number 6, he walks into bat at 4:30 for 4. A situation where you would think that a batter will not feel pressure, but you gotta give the benefit of the doubt because he was playing test cricket for the Indian team almost after 10 years. Here he plays a very loose cover drive, chips it straight to Ollie Pope and gets out for a duck. And this is almost the same scenario in the second innings. Karun Nair and KL Rahul were batting pretty well and India were 333 for 4. And this is when KL Rahul gets out. You would expect an experienced Karun Nair and Jadeja to stitch on a partnership and make sure India gets on to a big total. Except 2 runs later, Karun Nair chips it straight back to Chris Wokes, the easiest of catches and the softest of dismissals. As much as those 2 dismissals were very soft and something you wouldn't expect from Karun Nair, the fact that he was back into the Indian test squad just says a lot for him. And you would again continue to give him the benefit of the doubt just because it's his first test match. And this is where we get into the second test match and find out that he has a special affinity towards Brydon Cast. In the first innings, he looked very solid for those 31 runs, but a lot of people might think he got unlucky with the dismissal because of the extra bounce from the shot of good length, where the ball took off from the pitch and hit his gloves and he was caught in the slips. But this is where his second innings becomes a lot more crucial. He walks into bat at 51 for 1, and of course he does score 26 runs, but it's one of the most scratchiest 26 runs you'll ever see. He was poking at balls outside the off-stump, he was getting edges through slips for boundaries, and he was lucky to survive even for those 26 runs until Brydon Cast comes again to bowl and gets him out caught behind. Now we had 4 failed innings from Karun Nair, where the top 6 batters have all scored half centuries. Karun Nair at this point was the only batter to not perform. This is also where the criticism increased heading into the third test match. And it almost seemed like a fairy tale start to Karun Nair's innings. He walked into bat when India were 13 for 1 and scored 40 good runs until again to get out in what would arguably be a very unlucky fashion. He got a good ball from Ben Stokes and Joe Root took a fantastic catch at first slip. But you cannot say the same thing in the second innings. When Brydon Cast runs into bowl and he leaves a delivery that was going to hit the stumps, the ball did absolutely nothing apart from angling in. It was a clear brain fade moment, especially because the ball before he chased one 5th outside off, so it almost seemed like he predetermined the leave, and him getting out at that point not only built up pressure for the Indian team but also gained momentum for the English side. Now if you look at these dismissals, you could say that he has been a tad unlucky, but the rest of the dismissals are not something you would expect from a 30-year-old who's already experienced, who's already played for the Indian team. In fact, it's the kind of dismissals you would expect from someone just walking into the side, making his debut, and someone who's very young. If he does get another game, not only will he have a lot of pressure to score big, but it will be one of the last opportunities where he really needs to score big.
And in the scenario where Karun Nair doesn't score big or doesn't get the next game, then we already know who is going to be walking in at number 3, and that's Sai Sudarshan. Now with Sai Sudarshan, it's straightforward, right? Because of the simple selection that he had in the first test match versus England, you already know that he's the highest in the pecking order despite some other batters putting in more performances and for longer periods in red ball cricket. Now with Sai Sudarshan, it's more about the potential that he has and the age he's at and India's willingness to want to groom him in test cricket. In the first test match that he played, he got scores unfortunately of 0, but he scored a solid 30 in the second innings. So clearly there are sparks there, and even on the India A tour to Australia A, he did get a century, and so he's shown the kind of potential that he has. It's just about whether or not India are willing to put him back into the squad at number 3. The other option, and someone we've been raving about but clearly is not seen as just a batter, is Dhruv Jurel. Now while scores are one thing, Dhruv Jurel for starters has really good temperament, has already played test cricket for India, and has shown that he has the right technique to be able to succeed in conditions outside of India. This is also evident from the little bit of India A cricket that he's already played and dominated. In the India A tour to Australia A, Dhruv Jurel played just the one game and walked into bat in pressure situations in both of the innings in the only match he played. He got scores of 80 and 68, being the only half centurion in both of these innings and being the highest scorer in the entire match. And if that wasn't enough, he came to England and replicated the same against the England Lions. He notched up scores of 94, 53, 52 and 28 across the two first-class games that he did play against the England Lions. And while the batting conditions were decent to play in a second unofficial test match, he did score 52, which was the second highest score for the Indian team, apart from KL Rahul, who got a ton. The only argument here with Dhruv Jurel not getting a place as a pure batter could simply be that he's not been able to convert any of these 50s to 100s, and that begs the question as to whether or not he's yet ready for test cricket in foreign conditions. And this is where we come to a bit of a fan favourite, and that's Abhimanyu Ishwaran. With a first-class average of 48.7 and scoring 27 hundreds, you would think that it's a no-brainer to have Abhimanyu Ishwaran in the squad, especially when Karun Nair has failed. However, if you break this down into finer details, you do realize why Abhimanyu Ishwaran still is yet to get a chance in that Indian team. The first thing you look at with Abhimanyu Ishwaran is beyond the first-class setup, how has his India A performance been? And you can already see a dip with him averaging just 39.6 across 30 matches. Even here, he's got 6 centuries and 7 50s, but let's break this down into how Ishwaran has done outside of the subcontinent. The first thing you look at is India A's tour of Australia, and you see that Abhimanyu Ishwaran has failed miserably over here. While the conditions were tough to bat, we did see some of the Indian players scoring runs, but Ishwaran scored just 7, 12, 0 and 17. And from there, when you look at Ishwaran's performances versus the England Lions, it has improved a bit. He's got scores of 8, 68, 11 and 80, and notably this 80 came with him coming at number 3. What stands out is despite him scoring these runs, he was nowhere near the best batter for the India A setup. In fact, even with an average of 41.75, Ishwaran was 7th on the list for the Indian batters in terms of their batting average. And this is where the problem is. If you zoom out and see the bigger picture, you'll see that Abhimanyu Ishwaran with his India A stints has failed to perform overseas. Across 27 innings, he's got just 711 runs at an average of 27.3, and he's got just 1 century to show across all of these matches. Now, despite having these numbers, there is every chance that Ishwaran could be looked at as an option, especially if your number 3s are consistently failing. Given that he scored a couple of 50s versus the England Lions and is acclimatized to the conditions, there is every chance that he could be looked at for the remaining test matches.
The only other argument for Karun Nair can be the fact that he scored the 300 plus in India, so you could possibly fit him into the squad when you're playing in India. Except that becomes completely unfair because of the talent pool that India has, and because there are so many other batters continuously scoring runs. You can't have a special case for a special player, especially when the only 50 plus score he has is a 300 not out. If you've enjoyed this video, like, share and subscribe, all that good stuff. Let us know what you think about Karun Nair and his place in the squad. Like, share and subscribe, all that good stuff. All of our links are in the description below. If you haven't followed us on our socials, do that too. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.